heartened that the government is paying attention to this issue and harnessing the whole of government, whole of society to deal with this ongoing concern. I have a further question for the Minister. While I appreciate the efforts that are targeted primarily at the low-income Singaporeans to cope with the increased cost of living, I would like to ask the Minister, what more can the government do to help the middle class, the middle income group? This group are unlikely to qualify for most of the schemes, or the subsidies are often tiered lower due to their higher income. And understandably, they do aspire to live well, and they also want to have better lifestyle, whether it's wants or needs. And they are feeling that the household expenditures are also rising as their financial commitments increases. So I would like to ask the Minister, how can the government help this group deal with the money not enough cost pressure that they're facing?
Mr. Speaker, sir, I thank Mr. Liang Eng Hua for his supplementary question. Let me first make a clarification. I think the government is concerned not just with the lower income, and that's the reason why I've asked MTI and the various agencies to look across the entire spectrum of families in Singapore, retirees, middle income groups, because they all face different pressures. Of course, as a general policy, we try to do more for those from the lower income and perhaps the retirees first. Having said that, the government is very aware of the aspirations and the needs of the middle income groups. That's why we have a broad-based swath of measures that I have alluded to help everyone in Singapore. But specifically for the middle income groups, there are also various schemes that the government will extend to help them. It may not be in the same quantum as the lower income group, but generally they do get some different forms of help and different tiers of help. If members might recall that once upon a time when I was in MSF, I show everyone a chart, a diagram, which is now euphemistically known as the Kueh Lapis chart, that we try to help everyone in Singapore by making sure that those with the least get the most. But that doesn't mean that those with more did not get anything. It's just a tiering of the different help schemes that they have. So for many of the middle income, I think their concerns will be the education for their children and perhaps the utilities bill that they have to face, and also many of them will be taking care of their elderly parents as well. We are very aware of this, and the way we do this to help them is as follows. First, we try to do as much as we can to take care of our seniors, to relieve the burden from the middle income household with elderly parents. Number two, we want to make sure that the children's educations remain affordable and everyone will have similar opportunities to excel and to fulfill their potential. Our promise as a government is that so long as someone is capable and committed, they should not need to have to worry about their means, their family circumstances. And that's why we give out as many scholarships as possible, bursary awards as possible to help our students excel. So by relieving the pressures from the older folks and the younger folks, we hope to relieve the pressures on the middle income, middle-aged families. And I would like to add one more point. Beyond looking at the averages, I myself has personally asked my staff to look at each of the decile bands, because while our averages are moving up, we are obviously conscious that not everyone will move up at the same pace or the same rate. And we will have to pay particular attention to the group that I mentioned just now, who have lower wage increases or stagnating wage increases because their industries are going through rapid transformation. And this is where we'll work closely with MOM and NTUC to help our workers transit to new industry, to acquire new skills, take on new jobs before they are displaced. And finally, maybe I'd just like to share a story that my grandmother used to tell me. I mean, members would probably know that I come from a single parent family, so my mother has to work 2 jobs when we were young, so I was brought up by my maternal grandmother. There are 3 things that I always remember her teaching me about managing our family finances. First, she always reminded me that I must get a good job. I must make sure that I earn enough to take care of the family. It's a reminder to urge us to study hard, to acquire the correct skills, and that so long as we are prepared to work hard, there will be an opportunity in Singapore for us to succeed. And this is also the same philosophy and commitment that I bring with me to MTI, NTUC, and MSF, that we must help our workers first and foremost to have those opportunities to realize their aspirations and ambitions. The second lesson that my grandmother always drummed into us is that we should aim high. And Singaporeans, like all of us here, it's not a sin to aim high. We should all aim high, but yet at the same time, we must know our own strengths and weaknesses so that we do not stress ourselves or overly stress ourselves and our families. We must know where our capabilities are, what we are good at. But as we aim high, we must also be realistic in how we achieve those ambitions. The Chinese say, 适可而止, knowing our own limits. But the third thing that my grandmother always reminded me was that regardless of our family circumstances, we must always have a care for those who are less fortunate than us and who may need a bit more help than us. During my time, I never knew that there was something called MPS, to go and see MP. We didn't have SSOs. We had Fuli Bu or Hok Lei Po. But I was always reminded that that is really for those who really, really need help, and we should always try to take care of ourselves and at the same time take care of other people. And I think these three rules is quite instructive in how we approach this issue of cost of living. First, I think we must make sure that every Singaporean have good jobs that can allow them to fulfill their potential. Second, we must help Singaporeans to stretch their hard-earned dollars, that while in pursuing their ambitions and aspirations, that we are also realistic about our options and how we should distinguish the needs and the wants so that our families can have a better quality of life that is sustainable. Last but not least, with the resources that we have, either as a family or as a society, we must make sure that we give the most help to those who need it a bit more than us.